Now game week 37 is all said and done. I scored 52 points and I'm in 24k overall. And for the final time this season, here is my team selection for game week 38. All right, we'll start then by having a quick look at how my team has gotten on in game week 37. So like I said, 52 points and we're in 24k overall, which is a tiny red arrow compared to where I was week before. I kind of got done over by the Man City clean sheet wipeout and the Isak, well, non-start against, well, not even in the squad against Arsenal. That kind of completely did me over, to be fair. Man City conceding late against Bournemouth. And yeah, Isak not playing against Arsenal, I think hurt me, basically. Other than that, though, I do have a few, well, I do have one hero in my team. So yes, things didn't quite go my way in those regards. But I did have Konsa, who kept a clean sheet and scored a goal, scoring me 15 points. My midfield did pretty well. Assists for Sarr and Rodgers, and a goal, obviously missed penalty. Bit of drama happened with Mbumo, and actually that missed penalty for Mbumo meant that Shardo didn't get an assist for winning the penalty. Outside of that, well, we got a 1-pointer from Munoz. I can't say I'm too, worried about that. I think he's been one of the best defenders I've ever had in my team, to be honest, when I've had him. So can't begrudge him too much for just getting one pointer this week. Outside of that, Areola in goal. You can see there I made the wrong decision. Well, at the time, made the wrong decision in terms of outcome, but I think with the information we had at the time in terms of the deadline, number one, thinking, well, I had Isak in my team. I didn't really want to play Isak and Raya, and I was already benching Saliba. So I thought, well, with that logic, I should probably start Areola against Nottingham Forest. And I watched the game at the weekend with my dad, and to see that mistake he made for the Forest goal, just, yeah, it was painful. Ollie Watkins is my captain. He was clearly the most popular captain, I'd say, amongst engaged managers in FPL last week. He scored 5 points, got an assist, was my captain, so that doubles to 10. And then, I don't know what I was doing, really, bringing in Erling Haaland, to be honest. I wanted to captain him against Southampton. He blanked again against Bournemouth. Do I keep him? Do I not? That's the discussion to have. But yeah, anyway, quite short because I've already gone through most of these players in my transfer plans video. But yeah, here's how my team got on in Game Week 37. Right, so there's a couple of things I wanted to go through talking about Game Week 38. So it's the final game week we can make any transfers. Most people have, well, everyone has a transfer to use for Game Week 38, right? So we've all got one, at least one. So probably want to buy a player, I would say. Probably want to sell and probably want to buy someone. And, well, there's two criteria, I would say, in terms of players you'd want to buy. So for me, it's looking at projected goals and clean sheet odds. First of all, this is courtesy of RobTFPL on X. I use this all the time. Top teams in terms of projected goals. We've got Bournemouth, West Ham, Villa, Chelsea, Tottenham and Brighton look like they'll score a couple of goals each. Man City, Liverpool. We'll see how they get on against Palace. Newcastle, Arsenal and Brentford. So those are the top teams in terms of goals. Clean sheet odds. Bournemouth 42% against Leicester, Villa 28% against Man United, Man City 31% against Fulham, Newcastle 44% against Everton, and Arsenal 42% against Southampton. Obviously, Saliba could potentially have an injury. That's one thing to bear in mind. Outside of that as well, so you've got teams with good fixtures, good projected goals, good clean sheet odds. Actually, we'll just go back to that, giving away what I'm just going to talk about in a second. Teams with good fixtures. Looking at the highlights, I think Bournemouth and West Ham and Arsenal have kind of the best fixture this week. And then we're looking at the race for Europe. So there is a very slim chance that 8th place could equal a Conference League position for some teams. And I think, well, that certainly means Brentford is still in the fight for that, as well as obviously Brighton. So they still have something to play for. And then 7th to 3rd could all qualify for the Champions League this weekend, depending on how fixtures go. So Forest, Villa, Chelsea, Newcastle and Man City, they all have something left to fight for this season, right? Arsenal's place in the league is pretty sealed unless Man City needs to score 9 goals to overtake them. Well, actually, no, they need to score 8 goals because they'll do them on goals for. But even still, they need to score a lot of goals in order to do that. So I think Arsenal's place is relatively safe. And Arteta has been quoted, to be fair, to say that they can go to the beach now. I'll talk about that in a second. So those teams I've got highlighted are the ones with something to play for. So a combination of teams with good fixtures and teams with something left to play for are where you'd want to pick. However, if you've been astute there, you'll know that there are no teams in my mind that have the best fixtures and still have something left to play for. So that's something to bear in mind. You know, all of these teams, I'm already tripled up on Villa, as you can see from there, so I can't really buy an Aston Villa asset. Newcastle, maybe, against Everton. But outside of that, I'm kind of already loaded up on assets. So yeah, transfer decisions this week. I want to make one, but they are a little bit tough. So we'll start off with my defence then. If Saliba's fit, I think this is how I line up. I think. Although there is a little bit of debate, I would say, to be had as to whether I start Munoz, Ruben Diaz or Konsa. And in fact, I think Konsa could possibly come in for Saliba if we just have news that he's out. But yeah, Arsenal have Southampton. So I think I'm going to start Raya. He's in the chase for the Golden Glove. And I don't know. I don't think Arsenal have it in them to completely be on the beach for a game, especially when David Raya is chasing that Golden Glove. Munoz, he's been one of the best defenders in the game. No doubt about it this season. Probably going to be one of the first names on my team sheet next season. If he comes in, I think 6 million or below, I really quite like him as an option. You got Saliba. Yeah, a little bit of a doubt, obviously having been subbed at half-time, so we'll wait for some news on him. And then Guardiola. I think that probably is my starting four if they're all fit. But I do have some question marks around Munoz against Liverpool. Now, I could potentially start Ruben Diaz, could potentially start Konsa, and likewise, either of those two could come in for Saliba as well. But I guess the general point is that requires news that we don't have yet. And the general point is, I just don't think it's worth transferring a defender. Whatever happens going into Game Week 38, I think I can field a decent-looking defence to the point, at least, where I don't need to make a transfer. And also, I don't want to spend a transfer on a defender. You know, my final transfer this season feels a little bit boring if I am just to buy a new defender. So if I do nothing with my midfield, I think I can get away with it, right? I think I could get away with this game week without doing anything to my midfield. And I'd say there's a question mark as to whether I start Sarr or I start Jacob Murphy as well. Sarr's in the better form. Murphy obviously has the better fixture. Outside of that, I've got Mbeumo and Sharda. Both of these are absolutely fine assets, although I could potentially move Mbeumo on for someone, which I'll talk about in a second. Sharda's been a bit of a legend in my team. Unfortunate, I think, to blank in Game Week 37. Could have, got the assist points for winning the penalty that Mbeumo missed. And then Rodgers against Man United, I think, is a good fixture for a great player. So I'm not too concerned about that. And obviously, still has something left to play for. So I don't necessarily desperately need to do something with my midfield. I think it's fine. But again, I've got one transfer left. So I could use it on a midfielder. And one player I'm particularly interested in, and it could potentially involve selling Ismail Assar. I could go for Jarrod Bowen. He's become increasingly more popular in the game. I don't have him, obviously, at the moment. So he's not exactly a differential, but he's been in really good form recently, and he's got a really good fixture against Ipswich. I think you can pretty much, if he starts at least, you can pretty much guarantee that Bowen will either have a big chance or score against Ipswich. Couple of things I would say about Bowen, though. Well, West Ham's league position is already wrapped up. So how well are they realistically going to play against Ipswich in that final game? And are they going to create that many chances for Bowen? That's one. Another thing I would say about Bowen as well is he's not really one to haul. Like, he will score a goal a game, pretty much. Well, it's not the case, 5 goals in 10 games. But you know what I mean? He rarely scores more than 1 or maybe lucky 2 goals a game. He's quite a steady player. So I don't think he's not going to massively haul against Ipswich. That's what I'd say. But you can pretty much expect him to get like a goal, something like that. And also, one observation, although I'm ruling it out, is his expected goals are always relatively low. So he scored 5 goals in his last 10 games from 2.8 XG. But one thing I would say about Jarrod Bowen is that would not put me off at all. The guy is a world-class finisher. And every season I can remember playing FPL and watching his stats, he always outperforms his XG. So yeah, I think he could be a nice option. In addition to Jarrod Bowen, you can't ignore Saka against Southampton away, right? However hard I've tried, I can't ignore him. The one thing that puts me off is Arteta's quote, which I've put here. Finish the season, go to the beach, enjoy a few days, and make sure the ones upstairs do what they have to do. So he has effectively said in a press conference that the season for Arsenal is over. And I just think there's a chance that Saka, well, he probably does play, but where's the motivation really for Arsenal to score lots of goals and absolutely trounce Southampton? I just don't think it's going to happen. Like I said, you've got the motivation for David Raya to win the Golden Glove, which is one thing, but I just don't know where their heads are going to be for this Southampton game. So, yeah, with that in mind, I think if it were, you know, midway through the season and we were at this situation where Salah's not really on form or whatever, Liverpool don't have anything to play for, and, you know, we got this game for Saka, then maybe you could suggest bringing him in and captaining him. But the thing that I don't trust is that quote from Arteta. It just puts me off going for Saka. And if you look at how much budget I've got in the bank, so Saka's 10.3 million. I've got 2.4 million spare. Realistically, the only player that I can sell in order to bring him in is Mbeumo. And is it really worth selling Mbeumo, who plays Wolves away, with still something left to play for, by the way? They could finish 8th. Do I want to sell Mbeumo for Saka? Probably not. So, yes, I'm fully aware that he could well be on paper the best captain, but I don't have justification at the moment to bring him in. All right, and that leads me on to my front three then. Haaland, Isak and Watkins as it stands at the moment. Haaland, he's been very disappointing since I brought him in, but I just don't think I can justify selling him against Fulham. You know, Man City are going to, I think, have to win that game, which hopefully means that Haaland will get something. I'm praying that he gets something. There's 3 games he's played now since his return from injury and done nothing. Isak, who obviously missed the Arsenal game with a groin injury, he is just a bit of a sick note, isn't he, Isak? You know what you get him when he does play, but he has been, I would say in recent games, he's actually restricted by injury as well. So there was obviously question marks as to whether he plays against Everton. Will Eddie Howe reveal that or not in one of the biggest games of his season? Probably not, to be fair. But if you get any sniff that Isak is not fit or ready to go, I'll probably look to sell him, because I can't be doing with, you know, a player taking up that much budget in my team in one of the frontline positions not starting. So I could potentially consider selling him. We'll talk about that in a second. I mentioned Rodgers earlier with a great fixture against Man United. The same applies for Watkins. One of the reasons I brought him in, to be honest, was to, you know, target the good couple of fixtures that he did have against Spurs and Man United. Yeah, he stays firmly rooted in my team. So I think there's a couple of decisions left to make for me. Who do I captain, which we'll get onto? And if Isak isn't fit, who do I buy? And I think I'd buy Evan-Ilson. Now, he doesn't tick both of the boxes of teams in the race for Europe and teams with a good fixture, but obviously he does tick the box of teams with a good fixture. He's 3.4% owned. He's got Leicester at home. For me, the final Bournemouth home game of the season, they might not necessarily have anything left to play for, but I don't feel like Bournemouth will rotate. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Evan-Ilson is pretty much guaranteed to start. That would be my opinion. And if you think of, you know, Kluivert has been a bit of a legend in FPL for some managers this season, and probably over the course of the season, the best Bournemouth asset. But he's kind of dried up in terms of form recently. And the one top performing Bournemouth player is Evan-Ilson. So if there was to be a Bournemouth player that I brought in to target that Leicester fixture, it would be him. And if Isak is, you know, we get a sniff that he is out, I think I'll probably buy Evan-Ilson for him. Now, the final decision is who to captain. And I've got to say, I'm not sure at the moment. Because of the doubts around Isak, I'm just not sure what I'm going to do. This is what the FPL review and Fantasy Football Hub expected points say. They've got Saka as number 1, Salah as number 2, Haaland is 3rd for Fantasy Football Hub, not even on the list for FPL review. Other players of note on Hub are Martinelli, Watkins, Semenyo. Other players of note on review are Kluivert, Evan-Ilson, Palmer, Semenyo, Bowen and Mbeumo. So it looks like on paper, as I said, the best captain's Saka, but I'm a little bit concerned about that Arteta quote. And yeah, just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. The armband's on Isak at the moment, but I haven't even thought too deeply about who it actually goes to yet. I think if Isak is ruled out and I bring in Evan-Ilson, I'm probably going to captain Haaland, to be honest. I think in general, I'll probably captain Haaland. I know it's stuck on Isak at the moment, but I just think about it. He's relatively low owned. He's a nice differential. You know, Man City have got something to play for. Fulham don't. And also, stylistically, I think the two teams match up quite well. Like, Fulham, I expect, could well score in that game, but I also think Man City could too. And I just think with the way that Fulham like to play football as well, that could leave a bit more space for Haaland to operate. So, yeah, I'm probably going to go for Haaland as my captain for the final game week. I think I'm going to put myself through the Haaland ringer one more time. I know it says Isak at the moment, but yeah, we need to see what his fitness status is. So yeah, that's my team. Potential transfers, like I said, we just don't have the definitive news yet in terms of who's fit, who's not, and that will help me decide who I bring in. But I think that's where I'm looking. A transfer in my midfield, maybe for Bowen, maybe for Saka, or a transfer in my front line to maybe Evan-Ilson if Isak is looking like a doubt. and probably going to captain Haaland. Okay, well, that's the end of the video. Final time I'm going to talk about my team on a video this season. I am going to do a couple more bits of content this week. I've got, hopefully, if he's still available, a Q&A with one of the best performing managers this season. I think he's just gotten inside the top 100. So that's going to come, hopefully, live at 7 PM tomorrow. What else have we got going on? Oh, and I might have a cheeky differentials video coming out before the deadline stream on Sunday. So yeah, that's everything for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments if there's any other changes you'd make to my team that I haven't sort of entertained or talked about in that video. And yeah, I think that's everything, isn't it? Thank you very much for watching. And if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. Should be just there on your screen. I'll catch you in my next video.